Hey everyone, this is Darshan Senthil from IPLgeek.com, and I'm coming at you with another post-auction review, this time for the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Now, SRH, in my opinion, are one of the best teams for this upcoming season. I think they've got one of the best squads in comparison to the other teams, because that's primarily because they've picked up what they needed. They've picked up some good batsmen, bowlers, and all-rounders, and you will just see the strength of that side in a minute. So retained players, no surprise, they've stuck with Dale Steyn and Shikhar Dhawan, two of their best bowler and their best batsman. So really no surprise there from Sunrisers. Of course, there was a bit of talk that they would not retain Dale Steyn, but in the end they just decided to. So good for Sunrisers fans, not good for others. So yep, that's it. That's it with the retained players. Now for purchases, I think if you just look at their batting, at the top you see David Warner up there. Now that's, I think, a really good buy, particularly since Warner was in top form during the Ashes and during Australia's tour of South Africa, that Test series there. So David Warner has been a great player in that time frame, and I think he's going to be great for the Sunrisers as well. So yeah, he's one of the better buys they've had. 550, which is not too bad, ranging roughly around 800 to 900,000 USD, which is a fair price, to be honest, for somebody in his form. Next up, Amit Mishra, and of course leg spinner. He's gotten limited opportunities for India in the past, but he's done a fair job in whatever little he's got. He did brilliantly in the Champions Trophy in the few games against Pakistan. In particular, he did a great job there. And of course, we all remember how he exploited the slow Rajiv Gandhi track in Hyderabad last season to really bamboozle the batsmen, and really he was one of Sunrisers' mainstay bowlers. Now also you can see that they've maintained the mainstay of their bowling. They've got Darren Sammy, Ishant Sharma and Karan Sharma, all these guys back. They've stuck with their bowling in that sense, because their bowling was actually one of their biggest strengths in last year's tournament. Their home ground was a very low scoring one, so their bowling attack would usually restrict the other team to a terribly low total, and their batsmen would somehow stagger over it. Their batting was their weakness, to be honest. They would struggle to score very high totals. So their bowling was very strong, and thus you can see how they've maintained their the core of their bowling: Ishant, Karan, Darren Sammy, Amit Mishra, and co. They've also supplemented this by buying Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Bhuvneshwar actually not been in top form for India of late, because he's been economic more than most seamers for India these days, but he's simply not been wicket taking enough. Like, he's barely picked more than a single wicket in the past couple of games. And also he's just not as threatening as he once was back in, say, the end of 2012, where he was literally slicing through batsmen like a hot knife on butter. He was really on fire back then. He was totalizing batsmen with a swing, but now not as much so. But nonetheless, he's going to be a useful player for the Pune Warriors, for the Sunrisers Hyderabad to have, particularly since he provides a strong bowling option, and particularly in the slow Sunrisers track, and also because he's a swing bowler as opposed to a fast. I think he'll make a great addition to their side. Then of course you see Irfan Pathan. He's in there as well. He supplements the bowling even more, and he also adds the batting option. Of course, you can also see he suffered a major pay cut. He was paid around $1.9 million last year by the Delhi Daredevils, and now this is a huge pay cut. It's somewhere around roughly $400,000, which is much less than even 50%. It's much less than even 25% of what he got back in that tournament. So Irfan Pathan suffered a big pay cut, and he's gonna need to find some form if he wants to stay in contention for stuff. So I hope he uses this as a wake-up call as well. Then Parvez Rasool, the JK Jammu and Kashmir spinner. It was regrettable that we did not get to see him play in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe tour, for which he was selected. That tour happened in the summer of 2013. It's a real shame we didn't get to see him in action, but still, nonetheless, he was fair for the Pune Warriors last season when he turned out. He did not produce anything extraordinary per se, but he was pretty good. Then Jason Holder also comes into to supplement the attack. Really good. He's one of the West Indies fast bowlers. He played an instrumental role for CSK last year. They used him in many instances ahead of even players like Albie Morkill. So he's a pretty good he's a very tall fast bowler. He'll be helpful for the Sunrisers to generate some extra pace to couple with Steen. Then Parmeshwaran, Ashish Reddy, Shrikant, yeah, all these guys are back from last year. And yeah, now on to the batting. Now again we've seen David Warner up there, but now we'll also see Aaron Finch up here. He's one of the in-form batsmen of the time as well. He's been in awesome touch for Australia and for his Big Bash League team, the Melbourne Renegades. He was their leading run scorer, and he was also amongst my top. He was amongst the top players in my must-buy list, which I unfortunately was unable to publish. Actually, wait, I did publish that. Yeah, so he was amongst the top players in that list, and yep, and I think Sunrisers got him at a pretty good deal of 4 crore rupees, which is honestly not bad for a batsman in his form. And also now the presence of Warner and Finch adds plenty of opening options for Shikhar Dhawan. So this also enables them to be flexible with their players. Like one of them could play, like Warner played at 4 and 3 for Delhi last year. Like he could afford to do that this year. He could try to experiment with that. And also Aaron Finch could also try playing at 3 or wherever he felt appropriate. So they've got room for experimentation there, the Sunrisers. More with their batting, you see Moises Henriques, he's coming to the side. Like last year when he was with RCB, I noticed that he could really adjust his tempo to the side. Adjust his tempo based on what his team needed. Like, of course, it's never easy to do too much in the shadow of Chris Gale and AB de Villiers and Virat Kohli, but Henriques did his job very well. He scored those little cameos at the end of the innings, and also in one particular game when RCB was stuttering against the Sunrisers, ironically, he played this steady knock of 44 and 40 balls and helped them get to a defendable total, if not a very high class one. So yeah, it shows that he can really pace his innings based on the situation. And also his medium pace is pretty good and it's fairly wicket taking. He did do really good for RCB in the first couple of games, but then in the later games he took quite a thrashing with the ball, so that sort of didn't do good for his bowling economy, which averaged to about 9 or 8. So either way, he's a good player for the Sunrisers. I think he's one of their better buys as well. Lokesh Rahul, the Karnataka batsman, he played for RCB. He got precious little opportunity for RCB last year, but one of his highlights was a good catch he took off Michael Hussey, of Zahir Khan, to dismiss Michael Hussey in RCB's last against CSK. That was a good match. That was a good catch he made. He's good as a keeper, and he was pretty decent as a batsman as well. Like when Bangalore played Punjab, he could read those Azhar Mahmood's slower deliveries well, and he could put them well onto the boundary. So Lokesh Rahul, I feel, is a young rising talent, and he's gonna do well for the Sunrisers. Moving on, Venugopal Rao, pretty experienced campaigner in the IPL now. He started off with the Deccan Chargers, then moved on to the Delhi Daredevils, and now he's back in Sunrisers. So he's also decent with the ball as well as the bat, so he's going to be handy for them in their side. Namanoja, of course, wicketkeeper. His peak time was, of course, in 2010 during the Rajasthan Royals. Then he was picked up by Delhi in 11, and his form slipped, so he was more picked into the side just for his wicket-keeping abilities. And then last year, when Kedar Jadhav emerged as a better wicket-keeper, a better batsman than Namanoja, Delhi just sort of dropped him, so he was kind of like a reject from there. So I think he'll serve as another useful wicket-keeping option for the Sunrisers, particularly after they've lost Parthiv Patel and Kumar Sangakkara. Brendan Taylor, another wicket-keeping option from Zimbabwe, was one of the Zimbabwe captains. He's a great batsman as well. He's one of the more exciting players of this league. People are looking forward to seeing him in action. One of the first Zimbabwe players to play IPL after Ray Pins for Mumbai. So he's gonna be a handy guy for them to have in their team. Then we've already talked about Parmeshwaran. He's a handy left-arm seamer. And from Amit Paunikar, yet another wicket-keeping option. He played for Rajasthan, opened the innings a couple of times in 2011. And since then, Rajasthan sort of shunned him out after the rise of Sanju Samson and Dishant Yagnik. So that's, yeah, he's just been sort of shunned out after that. Ashish Reddy, of course, he's a handy batsman, as he showed on a couple of occasions, and also a really good slow bowler. Of course, he can be hit for runs many times, but he's also really good with his slower delivery. So he's similar. His playing style is very similar to that of Rajat Bhatia, if you notice. He currently plays for Rajasthan Royals, Rajat Bhatia. So him and Rajat Bhatia have a lot in common. They're low order hitters and good slower ball bowlers. And Shrikant Aniruddha, the CSK batsman, he opened the innings for them a couple of times in 2011. Actually in the first match of 2011 for CSK, he made a match-winning knock. And since then, actually, after the rise of Murli Vijay, Michael Hussey, he sort of got shunned out again. But now he's back with the Sunrisers, and it'll be interesting to see how he fits in with the rest of the squad. Then you got a couple of uncapped players here. And then of course Manpreet Juneja, he played for Delhi last year. He was good for them. He was average for them on certain occasions. And yep, that's the big idea of the Sunrisers squad. Now I'm looking forward to seeing how they put together their guys to balance both their bowling and batting. So let's just put these guys together in a playing 11. So I would obviously start out with Shikhar Dhawan. Shikhar Dhawan. I'm not sure why I just wrote his full name, but yeah. He's the guy who's most likely going to open the innings. Of course, being an Indian batsman, he's got that advantage there. Then I think they're most likely going to put in Dave Warner in with him. He's one of the informed players. I think he's most likely going to open. Then number 3, I think probably Aaron Finch might come in. Number 4, they'll have, I think, Naman Oja, because they need a keeper. He's the best one they have, without, of course, putting pressure on their overseas cap. Oja, and also making WK. He's a pretty decent top order batsman, Naman Oja, but sometimes he just sort of slacks off and per se, and yeah, he's suffered a drop in form, and I hope he gets back up. Then number 5, let's see, who do they have at number 5? Probably they can, yeah, it's pretty interesting because most of their batsmen are either top order or are mostly like top order batsmen. So yep, so Venugopal Rao, of course. Venugopal Rao will play at 5, I guess. Then number 6, it's going to be pretty interesting to see whether they will, yeah, Darren Sammy, of course. He's been one of West Indies players in form. He's been brilliant with both bat and ball, with bat in particular for them. Ball, he's been somewhat good as well. So he was really good for the Sunrisers as well. Played some crucial knocks for them to help them get out of tough situations. And I think he'll do good for them this year as well. Darren Sammy, then Irfan Pathan will come in at 7. Come in at 7. Then now the bowling lineup starts. So I think Karan Sharma will play here at 7, with at 8. Amit Mishra at 9. Dale Steyn at 10. And maybe the last part is gonna be a bit of a contest. Now Ishant Sharma and let's see, Parmeshwaran and Parvez Rasool and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, all these guys are gonna have to compete for that number 4 spot, that last spot. My thoughts are that it'll go to Bhuvneshwar Kumar, particularly since Ishant Sharma has been in dismal form of late. I'm sure dismal is actually a kind word to use for him. I'm sure you'll find a lot of more. If you're looking for more, like blunt words to describe Ishant Sharma's form, you could look online, Facebook, Troll Cricket, all those pages. So yeah, Ishant Sharma, I think he's gonna really. It's pretty lucky of him actually to get pulled into Sunrisers, of course. So on a bowling friendly home pitch. Actually, wait, the IPL is not in, it's not in India. So yeah, so he's lucky to play for Sunrisers anyways. So I think Ishant Sharma has a point or two to prove. So if he gets into the squad, he's gonna get little opportunity, particularly with Bhuvneshwar Kumar and guys breathing down his throat. So he's gonna have a lot to prove this year, Ishant Sharma, this IPL. He was pretty decent for them last year. He led the bowling along with Dale Steyn and served as a pretty good spearhead buddy for Steyn as the Sunrisers ran through other batting lineups. So I hope he does the same this year as well for his sake. And yep, he'll have precious little opportunity, like I said, but then Ishant Sharma can produce wonders. So of course Bhuvneshwar Kumar is most likely to get this spot, and this already forms a nice 5-man pace duo. Like Irfan Pathan, Dale Steyn and Bhuvneshwar Kumar make a good lineup, all three of them capable of spearheading the bowling on their own. Karan Sharma and Amit Mishra supplement with spin. Darren Sammy can chip in with a few overs as well. And of course, in the utmost times of need, both David Warner, all three of them actually, Shikhar Dhawan, Dave Warner and Aaron Finch can throw the ball as well. Actually, in 2012, I'm not sure if you remember, but Deccan Chargers, beg your pardon, were pretty desperate for bowling, so Shikhar Dhawan would often open the bowling for them, and he actually did pick a fair number of a few wickets, but mostly he was just carded for runs. But just shows how desperate the Sunrisers were, the Deccan Chargers were at that time. So all of these guys can chip in whenever they need to, and not to mention Venugopal Rao can chip in a bit with the ball. The batting looks solid, I must say. It's I think it was the best batting lineup Sunrisers have had since. So in general, they're one of their best batting lineups. David Warner, Aaron Finch. These top three though make the mainstay. Namanoja, Venugopal Rao, kind of. Darren Sammy again, you've got the spark. Irfan Pathan, he's been slightly unreliable, but still we know what he can do. Karan Sharma, Amit Mishra can swing, so can Dale Steyn. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is not bad either. So there's plenty of depth in this lineup. I like to see that. It's good for the Sunrisers, particularly knowing their game style is usually score low, but don't let them score much either. So I'm impressed with the Sunrisers squad. Now of course they have room for experimentation as well. Like for instance, if Bhuvneshwar Kumar does not perform or the track favors spin bowlers more, they always have a chance to pull in someone like Ashish Reddy or Parvez Rasool in, or say that somebody like Dale Steyn is injured, they can pull in Jason Holder here as well. Or if they want to give Darren Sammy a break, they can pull in Moises Henriques. So they've got plenty of backup as well, so they don't have a problem. So in terms of that, so or if they want to experiment with different types of batsmen, they can push KL Rahul in there, or try Manpreet Juneja, and maybe even I don't know. Yeah, they could try Amit Paunikar. They could try to push them in, or if they just feel they want to give one of these two guys a rest, they could push in Brendan Taylor in there. I'm sure everybody would love to see that. And yeah, that's a general view of what I feel the Sunrisers could do. So overall, I feel Sunrisers are an incredibly powerful side. They've got great names on paper. They look amazing squad, big faces, in-form faces. I'm looking forward to seeing them this season. I think they'll do great. And yeah, that signs off this podcast for Sunrisers. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. Please do visit my website iplgeek.com and subscribe to my channel. Just search, you're watching a video from it right now, or you can just click the subscribe button in the comments section below, or you can just simply you can search for my YouTube channel IPL Geek Rocks if you haven't found it already for whatever reason. And yep, that concludes this. Thanks for watching.